and welcome to Meeting Management, a Lions University course brought to you by the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. I'm past District Governor Nancy Watt-Durant, Dean of the Master's Program, and I'll be working along with other Lions U associates this evening during the presentation. Past District Governor Wendy Kane, who is the General Chair of the upcoming Des Moines Forum in September, and past Council Chair Gary Steele, who is our Lions University Coordinator. This webinar is being recorded so that for those who are unable to participate this evening, they can watch it later, and if you would like to review the material at a later date, you can do that also. You can participate in this webinar, and we encourage you to do so. You can ask questions or respond to questions by typing them in the questions pane, raising your hand, and once we see that, we'll unmute you so you can speak directly to everyone. Meeting Management, Course 224, is an elective course for the Lions University Master's Program that is designed to help Lions lead at the district level. The Master's Program involves the completion of the 10 required courses that you see on the left-hand side there, and at least 5 of the electives that are listed on the right. You can see all the courses that are currently available or scheduled by going to the appropriate program summary page. This page refers to the bachelor's program, and there are similar pages for the master's and the doctorate program. You will need to register for an account on lionsuniversity.org in order to gain access to the available courses, take quizzes, and track your real-time progress. This requires a different username and password than those of you who already have registered with lionsforum.org. Two separate entities here under the same umbrella. So strongly recommend that you use different name and password, otherwise it could be confusing. I have heard, however, that some people use both and they seem to be able to keep it straight. So good luck on that one. After participating in the webinar or watching the course video, select Mark as completed, and that's in the bottom right-hand corner there where the red arrow is. And at the bottom of the page, this will link you to the quiz module, which isn't shown here, but it'll be on the right-hand side of your page called Unit 2. Click on Quiz, answer the questions, and when you've done that successfully, you're given a prompt to download your certificate. You can monitor your own course completions by selecting My Account, and then selecting either bachelor's or master's or doctorate courses. And we like to stress that it is your responsibility to track your own progress. When you have completed a phase of the program, such as all the required courses and at least 5 electives or the required experience, you can then apply for program credit and select the appropriate phase. Complete the relevant information, providing as much detail as possible to assist us in verifying you have met the criteria. And I have to stress, it's very important that you be as accurate as possible, particularly when you're asked to give the date that you attended a particular forum or institute, because we have an awful lot of people who are registered in all of these courses, and it's pretty difficult to go through and try and find who you are if you don't have the proper date. So please be very, very careful when you're entering that information. You can take any course in any order or just the courses that are of interest to you. But please be aware that attendance at the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum from 2014 or later is a component for those of you who are working towards completing all of the bachelor's, master's, and or doctorate program requirements. Now it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome our presenter this evening, past International Director, Tom Gordon. Tom Gordon from Newmarket, Ontario, Canada, was elected to serve a 2-year term as the Director of Lions Clubs International at the Association's 100th International Convention held in Chicago, Illinois, June 20 through July 4, 2017. Past Director Gordon is a retired educator and owner of a human resources training company. A member of the Newmarket North Lions Club since 1982, he has held many offices within the club, the district, and the multiple district, and he served as the multiple district A Council chairperson and also the multiple district GLT coordinator. In addition, past Director Gordon has presented training and information sessions at local, multiple district, and international conventions. Additionally, he is a Lions Quest trainer and trainer of trainers and has presented Lions Quest workshops across Canada and the United States since 1988. He's also a member of the faculty of the USA Canada Lions Leadership Forum. He was appointed to the Lions Quest Advisory Committee as part of the Lions Club International Foundation Board of Trustees in July 2019. Upon induction as a director, Lion Tom was assigned to the Leadership Development Committee. When the new Technology Committee was formed at the International Convention in Las Vegas in the 2018-19 Lions year, he served as vice chairperson on that committee. In recognition of his service to our association, he has received numerous awards, including the Membership Key Award, an Extension Award, 3 International Leaderships Awards, 3 International President's Awards. He is also a Progressive Melvin Jones Fellow, and recently he received the Lions' highest award, the Ambassador of Goodwill. In addition to his Lions activities, past Director Tom has been active in numerous professional and community organizations. He has served as chairperson on the board of directors of the York Region Addiction Services, Vice President of Habitat for Humanity, and Director of Lions Quest Canada. Past Director Tom and his wife, Lion Jillian, a Progressive Melvin Jones Fellow, have 2 daughters, 1 son, and 3 grandchildren. So welcome, Lion Tom, and now I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
That's great. Well, thank you, Nancy. I sound really good on paper, don't I?
Oh, you sure do.
My mom would have loved that. Well, welcome, everybody, and thank you for spending your time with us this evening. This is, you do meetings and meetings and meetings and meetings, and some of them work out very, very well. As you can tell from my bio, I've been to lots of meetings, and some of them are managed expertly and done very well, and you get a lot out of them. And some are, they're not so well managed. They're just lagging. The leadership in that case did not have the speaking skills or the facilitation skills, or they didn't set up the meeting properly. It just didn't flow well. And we know from the research that Lions International has done that, poorly run meetings are meetings that send people out the door. The corollary, of course, would be for us to have some nice, short, exciting meetings. And Lions International research also says that to draw younger members, our clubs have to keep them there. Our clubs also have to have the short meetings that are exciting and engaging, to better meet that modern lifestyle. So out of these types of meetings, that's our challenge, really, right? And believe me, I've run some stinkers myself, and I still find it a challenge to run meetings that are interesting, informative, inclusive, and motivating. New challenges using social platforms have caused me to look more closely at running effective meetings too, and to learn some new technology. If you have done the Lions Club's International Learning Center courses for zone chairs, district governors, and effective teams, and you have participated in the bachelor level course, Effective Club Meetings, you may find some of the content tonight redundant. There are modules within the Lions Leadership Institutes that also address the managing of meetings. You may also want to check the virtual events page on the Lions International website for how to run a Zoom meeting. That's going to be important. Today, our primary focus will be on applying those concepts to district level meetings, that is, governor's zone advisory meetings, region rallies, district cabinet meetings, and the business sessions at district conventions. Meetings typically have many reports, and those are being presented by not the presiding officer necessarily, but the presiding officer will have to run the meeting. And sometimes this will run a lot longer than the typical club meeting. If you're one of the GAT coordinators, zone chairs, persons, region chairpersons, or district governor, you'll be called upon to do these meetings, and a number of skills areas would be part of your knowledge set. Let's not forget the vice district governors as well, who may be called upon in the absence of the district governor to handle the cabinet region rally or governor's advisory meeting. This will require some introspection and self-evaluation on your part. And I have to tell you, that's continual. It doesn't change. Especially when you're trying to use new technology, you have to look at your performance and see what could I have done better there. I would suggest that you do that. Leading management is what some people's minds would say. That's what makes a leader if they run a great meeting. So please try to have fun when you're leading meetings. You know, take the job very seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. You're going to make mistakes. So admit them, have fun with them. You're human. And away we go. So let's get started. Meetings are where we, as Lions, decide how we can best serve our communities and how we can best administer our districts. Effective meetings provide a positive social experience, knowledge and leadership growth, and opportunities for successful community projects. Our learning goals today will be to discuss the organizational, presentation, facilitation, and public speaking skills needed to manage an excellent meeting. I have included some checklists that I use in these areas when I'm training districts and club officers. Now you may see them in the downloads page over there, so if you haven't downloaded them already, you may want to do that as we go through. Our objectives are to define the role of the presiding officer, list the steps taken before, during, and after the meeting to ensure the meeting's success, to explore a sample agenda, and review presentation and facilitation techniques. Now, the social platforms, there's so many of them, so I'm going to stick just briefly to Zoom. I know we're on GoToMeeting today, but I'm going to stick to Zoom when my references. Discuss the importance also of follow-up, something we don't do very well sometimes. Okay, you may want to take your notes like we said before, and you may want to pop off the downloads that are over there on the side. Anyone who's interested in doing this stuff, you know, you're going to find out that it just doesn't come naturally. It's something that you only learn with observation and practice. When you run a meeting at the district level, you should have had some practice at the club level beforehand. So use what worked for you at that level initially, before you make too many drastic changes to what you're going to do at the district level. Okay, so here's the roles of the presiding officer. And you'll see the presiding officer here is juggling a lot of balls up here. First of all, you're the organizer, okay? You're the person who has to put all this stuff together. Now, you may delegate some of that, and you may keep some of that for yourself. That's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. You're going to be the presenter for at least presenting the other speakers, at the very least, You need to be an effective speaker because you have to do the presenting. That's basically how that works. And a facilitator because not everything is you talking. If you're having good meetings, there should be some back and forth. Okay, you also have to be a moderator. Sometimes you have to jump in and moderate the meeting. Sometimes they get out of hand. And that all comes down to being a leader. That's why we said sometimes, when you're a leader, people think of you as a good leader if you run meetings. Okay, so each role that I've had has provided me with some unique experiences and challenges to overcome. And each position has provided me some immense satisfaction as I moved up through the leadership roles in Lions and in the other organizations as well. Each experience I've found is better than the previous one. That being said, running effective meetings is the most time-consuming and nerve-wracking of these experiences. Not only do you have to have great organizational skills, but your presentation and facilitation skills are going to be tested. You could do all the work yourself or delegate portions, as we said before. Your cabinet or zone secretaries, zone or region chairs, and your global action team people are great resources to assist you in producing effective meetings. Also, when you're looking on the succession side of this, they need to get some practice. I've provided checklists for you. I've talked about that before. So here's before the meeting. So this is part of our three-step process. We're going to talk about before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting. So before the meeting, as you're moving through the chairs at the club and district levels, you need to practice your skills. Your skills in communicating the message being sent and the quality of your voice have a lot to do with how long your group will stay on task. The experts say that we communicate our messages more visually than auditorily. So pay attention to your posture, your facial expression, and your dress. Stand up straight, try to smile, and let your eyes move around the room, making eye contact with as many lions as you can. Try not to let your eyes linger on any one individual too long. That can get you into trouble, but make some eye contact. Try not to fidget with objects in your hand. I really have trouble with remotes when I'm doing my slide. I love to play with the remote, but that takes everybody's attention away from what the heck I'm supposed to be talking about. Okay, use your hands to make salient points, those gestures that seem natural and not exaggerated. When I practice this, and I practice it on videotape, I put 2 books in my hands, heavy books. And if I have to move the books when I'm talking, that's a salient gesture. Move your position a little bit so you don't look like a statue or talking head. If you're standing behind the lectern, step out behind from time to time. If you're one of those people who like to wander, and I do, make sure that you have enough cord on the microphone so you don't trip yourself up. Do have some notes or key phrases on a piece of paper or a card that you can refer to without reading your delivery or reading your slides. Those things will give you confidence, and your audience will see that you're prepared. If you're not comfortable with telling jokes, don't. It's not mandatory. If you are, make sure that the jokes are appropriate. Vary the tone, volume, and rate of your speech. You don't want the audience to fall asleep to the drone of a mechanical sounding speaker. If a microphone is available, use it. I've been to more meetings than I can count when speakers said, I don't need one of those, when they really did. Not so much for themselves, but for people in the room who are hard of hearing. Some of the social platforms lions use have a closed caption function so that hard of hearing lions can actually see your words. Use them if you know how to do that, or get somebody to show you how. Pause from time to time to let your audience catch up. You may have to define a new term or give a description of a new project that is unfamiliar to the participants. Our association is loaded with acronyms: LCI, LCIF, LFT, ELLI, ALLI, and so on. Try to avoid these and the use of jargon when possible. They confuse your audience and take some time to decode. I try to use the whole term for things like Emerging Lions Leadership Institute rather than LE. Most districts have a dress code for their officers. Stick to it. It shows respect for the association, the office you are holding, and the audience you have in front of you. As a presenter, check out the meeting site well before the meeting. Make sure there is enough space for the Lions attending. You have to make sure that lunch and refreshments are ordered and there is an appropriate space for them in the room. Find out where the electrical outlets and light switches are located so you can place your technology where it can be manipulated easily. That gets quite frustrating in some of the smaller rooms that I've had to present in, I know. But you can make the best use of a room if you get there early or you get there a couple of days ahead of time and scope it out. Plan your room setup for maximum effect. Attendees have to be able to see the presenters. The size and scope of your meeting will determine the appropriate setup. I like to have a semicircle or U shape around the center table or the head table with the lions as close as I can get them to me. Communication is so much better when this can be arranged so everyone can see each other's faces. For large groups and or small groups in small rooms, this might not be possible. You might have to do something a little bit different. If you're using round tables, try to put all your chairs at the back of the table so that everybody is facing forward. If you are using a social platform, have someone who really knows what they're doing administer the meeting for you. They can scan the chat box and the questions panel, as well as let others share the screen if you're going to share the screen or do any kind of annotation. I found it works better to have the presenters send me their slides well beforehand when we're doing this and put together a whole slide deck so the meeting can just move from one slide to the next without having to stop and reload slides for somebody else. Polls and annotation pages can make the meeting online more active. If you're having an in-person meeting, contact the caterer or person in charge of preparing the refreshments or meals and let them know how many people are coming and when. When during the meeting, also, should services be required? Sometimes they don't see your agenda. Assign someone to collect any monies required for the meals or refreshments. You don't want to have to spend your time doing that. Spend considerable time working on your objectives for the meeting and prepare an agenda to meet those objectives. Contact your mentors and the last person to fill your current position to find out what works and what doesn't work with this group. I've seen and been presented many one-size-fits-all agendas. The protocol of a district should be kept in place, but the agenda should be flexible enough so that participants don't think, I've been there, done that, right off the bat. Assign the length of time for each item on the agenda. Some presiding officers even put the exact times on their agendas. I like to be flexible enough to let one item go a little longer if I can shorten another. And that's usually one that I'm presenting a little later on in the agenda. Prepare the arrangement of your head table, including protocols from Lions International and from your local district. Prepare a list of the dignitaries and guests attending your meeting. This is a good job for the person who will succeed you. They'll get to know the dignitaries, and it gives the audience a rest from your voice and from your cadence. The dignitaries need to be introduced, which establishes protocol. What I mean by that is this. Speakers sometimes feel they have to address all the dignitaries in attendance when making their reports. And if you have 30 reports, they're going to introduce all the dignitaries 30 times. So if you do it once at the beginning of the meeting, Lions only need to address the chairperson of the meeting. This saves time and embarrassment for those new Lions who don't even recognize the dignitaries. All good meetings have an objective or set of objectives that should be shared with the participants well in advance of the meeting. Our district cabinet sends the agendas out 3 weeks in advance and asks for committee reports and slides to be sent in by the week before the meeting. The reports can then be packaged and sent out to appropriate attendees. This gives the participants the time and opportunity to read the reports and be prepared for comments and suggestions before the meeting begins. Think carefully about inviting a guest speaker to the meeting. While guests do supply a change of pace and often present interesting topics, you have to ask yourself, does their presentation reflect the objectives of our meeting? If not, do without. The members' time and energy is precious and limited. Read the reports thoroughly yourself and summarize the important parts so that you can bring them to the pre-meeting meeting. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. Contact the person who wrote the report for further information if need be. Some of the poorly run meetings that I've attended were the result of the presiding officer being surprised by the content of a report and then being unsure of how to proceed. This also gives the leader some points to use in their introduction to the meeting. And yes, chase those who are tardy with their reports. There are some district officers I've met who drop reports from the agenda if they are late getting in. Personally, I feel this is a little drastic, but I've done it with some chronic offenders. Have pre-meeting meetings with your inner core of the executive to highlight any areas this group feels may require a lot of time and or discussion. These can happen anytime from a couple of days or just a few hours before the meeting. Secretaries, treasurers, and vice district governors would be examples if we are talking to a district cabinet meeting. Secretaries, global action team coordinators, zone chairs, and anyone bringing a new proposal would be examples if we are talking about a governor's zone advisory meeting or region rally. Practice your presentation and have someone listen to you and give you feedback. Like I said before, you can videotape it and watch your presentation to yourself. It's a little hard on you, but it'll say, oh, look what I did with my hands. Holy cow, I shouldn't be scratching my ears in the middle of a presentation. You can run a practice presentation on Zoom if you want. You can do that, record it, and play it back if you don't have a video camera. Did your hands fly all over the place? Did you fidget with the remote? Or did you lose your place in your notes? It's quite a humbling experience. If all else fails, visualize yourself giving a performance that the best presenter you know will be proud to call her own. You might be surprised how well your meeting goes with that type of positive affirmation. Prepare an evaluation checklist to hand out to select Lions at your meeting. I hand mine out to the last person who filled my position, the next person in line to fill my position, my mentors, and a few new Lions to this level of the meeting, and make a few extra in case Lions ask for one. Okay, during the meeting. What are you going to do during the meeting? Well, let's take a look at the agenda first. Okay, now this agenda I've squashed and moved because I had to take off all the contact information that was on here. So kind of hard to read while I'm looking at it here, but you can download a version of it in the downloads on the side over there. You'll see that we have a call to order, and then we have our national anthem, we have a moment of silence, and then we move through who is going to do all the presenting. Now, some of these presenters are actually presenters of presenters. So if we look at meeting agenda number 2, that's the next one. You'll see that we have our region chair for this cabinet meeting are going to do some of the presentations of their zone chairs and one of the committees. And then the region chairs, the vice district governors, some of the zone chairs, depends on how you want to run your meeting and who you're trying to bring up through your line of succession, who will, introduce the committees that go down there. And so we list those all ahead of time so people can be aware of who's up next, which really helps your meeting run a little bit smoother, and also what they've already heard, so they know how to line the reports. Okay, so during the meeting, we want to make sure we do the very first thing I want you to make sure you do is to get there early. Because who knows? There's a whole bunch of stuff that could go wrong between the last time you were there and when you have to set up. You want to be all set up and ready to go when the first person comes in. If you're doing this online, we do this online. We actually put in a visitation time, a social time online, so people can come in online. And we don't mute them to come online, but we ask them to mute later on while the meeting's going on. So you have to get your technology lined up, and you have to have as much information now from Lions. We just have tons and tons of stuff so that you can show the group. You have all kinds of PowerPoints, and you have scripts, and you even have workbooks for some of the presentations. So, you can get that stuff all lined up, put it where you want to put it. If you want to have information on everybody's place where they're sitting, or if you want to hand it out later, you want to have a place for them to go to get it, however you want to run your room. But watch the time here and make sure you have everything set up and ready to go so that you do have some contact time with the people. This really gives you a chance to build a little rapport with your audience. It also gives you a chance to see, okay, are there any hot things going on now that I didn't know about before I got here? Okay, test all of your media, make sure it works. That's really difficult when you first get on the line. We even had a little trouble tonight getting me logged on, and we're having some trouble getting me the login for tonight. So you never know. So we had a good half hour built in to take care of that. If you're having your in-person meeting, find out where all the washrooms are so that you can direct the members during the meeting, or even yourself. And check on the caterers one more time during the meeting. If you are using a social platform, still get there early. I mentioned that. Some districts have a social time before the meeting. Ours does that. Sometimes, your bandwidth when you're doing meetings, sometimes your bandwidth is a little small. We even have some of our clubs are still on dial-up, so their bandwidth is a little small. So we get them to shut off their video camera. If they shut off their video camera and they want to talk, then what happens is it lowers the amount of bandwidth they're using, so their voice doesn't come out all tinny. Because you can tell when you don't have enough bandwidth, your voice gets all tinny and wavery. Can't really understand what you're saying. The microphones and speakers in the computers and webcams do not produce a great sound. So I always use headphones and with a microphone on it, just because I can hear better that way, and I can also be heard better that way. Number one rule for all meetings, boy, and there it is, point 2, start on time. If you want to finish on time, you really got to start on time. If you don't, you penalize those in attendance and you reward those who are late. Yes, there will be instances where people are unavoidably detained. Start anyway, and then allow them a graceful entrance when they do arrive. Respect your group, and they will respect you. Once the meeting starts, welcome the group, and remember to tell your group to turn off or put on vibrate their mobile communication devices. Point out where the washrooms are located and when you expect to have your breaks. If there are monies to be collected for meals, remind the group who will be collecting it. Shouldn't be you. Who will be collecting that, and when it would be appropriate time for them to meet with that person. Have a short introduction ready to go and outline the objectives of the meeting. Even though we have spent considerable time preparing and vetting the agenda, I suggest you ask if there are any items that need to be added to the agenda. This leads your group to understand that you are trying to be inclusive and that you respect their input. Let the group know that you can handle these, if you can handle these items today, if there is time, and then assign these items to the new business section of your agenda. Be prepared to manage your participants, especially with in-person meetings. It's easier to handle them on a Zoom meeting. You just turn the microphone on. Your facilitation skills will be tested though, but try to remember to be respectful of the other people's opinions and ideas. You may have to handle interruptions and difficult behavior. Everybody deserves the right to be heard, but not to dominate or hijack the meeting. Everyone should have received the reports and had the opportunity to review the contents. Have the writers of the reports summarize the contents in their presentations. Ask them to be brief and to the point and put forth any motions that will be required. This really cuts down the opportunities that Lions have to disrupt the flow of the meeting, and it reduces the length of time needed. On social platforms, you can ask the Lions to mute themselves or have the administrator mute everybody and allow only the presenter to be in audio mode. Some presiding officers require all motions to be written out beforehand and submitted to the secretary before the meeting starts. And as long as your secretary is organized, this allows the meeting to move along a little faster too. Allow people to ask questions, but cut off lengthy discussions unless you have allowed time for this on the agenda. This is where having read the reports allows you to cut to the chase if the questioner tries to take the topic off task. You can state that the information is included in the report and then move on. Or if it is not, you can let the presenter answer the question. If it gets too involved, you can jump in and defer the discussion to a more appropriate time. Slight conversations are often distracting to the presenter, and those can interfere with the message being delivered. But be aware, however, some people need to process information verbally. They need to talk to the person beside them or they don't get it. Initially, give these people a few minutes to discuss among themselves or complete their notes, because some people take notes, and I'm sure some people are taking notes now, and then bring them back for the meeting. This will take some tact, but you need to be assertive here. Certainly, we do not want the meeting to be a series of small group meetings. On social platforms, you can decide whether you want the Lions to be able to use the chat feature or not. I like to let them use it to process and also to make it a little more interactive. Using standards procedures such as Robert's Rules of Orders will maintain the flow of the meeting and allow the questioners an entry point so that they can be heard. Allow points to be presented and remind people of the objectives of the meeting. You have to remind them that you have some timelines too, and you want to keep the discussion focused. Defer or table until later any items that can be handled later in the meeting or at a later date. This may mean asking the presenter to return to the next meeting with more information to satisfy the questions brought up at this meeting. As a presiding officer, you may need to paraphrase and summarize for the presenter if the information has not come across clearly. Tact and diplomacy are not qualities, though, that are in your DNA. Watch those leaders who'll handle these situations well and copy their responses where appropriate. Introduce each speaker or have someone else introduce them briefly. Cabinet meetings are great places to give your region and zone chairs this responsibility. Again, it gives the audience a break from your voice and allows the introducer to get to know more members of the group. Thank each speaker using their name and the title of the report. For example, thank you, Lions Stu, for the Lions Quest report. Acknowledge the hard work of the Lions at the meeting. One person does not run our zones or our regions or our districts or our multiple districts. It's a team effort. Start with the people who help to set up the meeting. Those people who arrange for the room, help set up the room, prepared or arranged for the refreshments or meals, supplied the audio-visual equipment, or administered your virtual meeting. Point out that those people have made a significant contribution to the group. And there are some people who may have made contributions between meetings. Finally somebody has done something outside the meeting that you hadn't anticipated or the group hadn't anticipated. So you want to celebrate those things and some significant anniversaries, club charters, those kinds of things. We even have birthdays and wedding anniversaries, we celebrate those too. There may be somebody who's just done a lot of hard work for a long time, has made ongoing contributions to the success of the group. You might want to give them a pat on the back too. There is a whole document that we have called the art of recognition that we sometimes ignore. A good handshake and a slap on the back when we can touch each other again are great things to use. At the end of the meeting, thank the participants once more for their attendance and their cooperation. Summarize any key decisions or projects you have been launched, and ask for anything good for the anything good for the good of Lionism. If I could talk, this would be better. Okay, so the meeting is over. We've managed the group, we've presented our agenda, we've done all of our work. After the meeting, people tend to say, oh, it's over. However, it's not. Stick around. Hand out your prepared evaluation sheet. Stay for those Lions who want to follow up with you. Watch yourself, though. Maintain your facilitation skills during these encounters and refrain from having a meeting after the meeting right away. You can schedule that for later, but not do it tonight. Read your evaluations as soon as you can and make notes for improving for your next meeting. Be in contact with your secretary to complete and review the meeting minutes as quickly as possible. Get them distributed to the whole group as quickly as you can after review. Good thing for the internet. Motions passed, motions denied, and requests to bring back information need to be discussed with the presenters. Thank them again for their efforts and ask what actions need to be taken next. Some motions are easier to implement than others and may take more than one meeting to get through. Offer any assistance you are able to provide. Talk to the presenters of failed motions to ensure they realize why their motion was defeated. We sometimes lose Lions whose ideas were rejected by the group. They may feel embarrassed or shut out by the group. You may be able to offer suggestions on how to present a motion or how to come back with a better prepared motion on the same topic at a later date. Again, thank them for their efforts and offer any help you can give them in the future. Follow up towards the time of the next meeting to ensure that all the actions required have been carried out. I use a follow-up checklist and I've included it in the downloads over there. And you can use that. And if you do that, ask your secretary to keep a motions log for you. Some districts do this normally. In some districts, it's actually a legal prerequisite to have a motions log. And you want to be able to review that between meetings just to make sure that you've carried out the motions that you said you were going to do and that you're going to follow up on the ones that didn't get passed. It is critical that you follow up your meetings to make sure that motions agreed upon are actually implemented. Sometimes we find in our districts that those motions die. They're just not there at the end. So for my input, I've given you as much input I can give you tonight without boring you too much. If you have any questions, we are able to answer them now. I hope Wendy and Nancy have collected these up for me and we can get them answered for you at this point. Okay, thank you for your time. There's a big question mark.
I don't see any hands up. I do. Barbara Cronin.
Barbara, how are you?
We unmute you. You're self-muted, Barb. There. Oh.
Everything that you talked about was just so helpful. I've taken classes like this before, but to be reminded of a different approach to it. And I really want to thank you very much, Tom, for a great presentation.
Wow. Well, thank you, Barb. Do you have an actual question? I love the accolades.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I really didn't. My hand raises up automatically. I don't even have to touch it. I have a question about the highest awards that Lions can get, because I keep finding out that there's more and more, that you can work towards. And I'm very impressed that you have the highest Lions award. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well,
So-
you know, I could give you the list of awards. We assume that the highest award you can get in Lionism, I guess, is the Ambassador of Goodwill. And that's actually, I think, on the wall behind me. Yeah, it's on the wall behind you back there. If you see somebody wearing a blue and gold ribbon with a big medal on the end of it, that's the Ambassador of Goodwill. And that's presented by the international president. So not too many people get that. And then the second highest then would be the International President's Medal. And then the third one would be the International Leadership Medal. And then the fourth one would be the International President Certificate of Appreciation. Now, the best award to get is the one you didn't expect and the one you know you got for doing a good job. That's the best award to get.
Yeah, because I did get a medal, an International President's Medal and Certificate of Appreciation. But the best one I got was Lion of my district.
Right.
Lion of the Year. I mean, that just means a lot to me.
Yeah, you know, and those are the best to get. The ones that mean the most are the ones that you didn't expect and that you know you got for doing a good job.
Exactly. But thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Barb.
Okay, I see another hand here. Dennis Stevenson.
Good evening, Dennis.
Well, working. I'm trying to. There you are. You're unmuted, Dennis. Go ahead.
Just wanted to mention, Tom, it's 2 nights in a row I get to sit and watch you. But
sorry,
but that's not a problem. I've known each other for a long time, so it's a pleasure to see you impounding your knowledge about meeting management. And I'm just refreshing myself because I'm moving into the president's position in my club in next Lions year, and I kind of didn't sit on my hands hard enough, and I got cornered. But you cannot ever not know everything, and the refreshers are good. And at least now I know if I really got a question, I know where to go and get the answer.
well, you can go online and just listen again.
Yeah, that'd be handy.
But you have my number. You can just call. Thanks, Dennis.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Dennis. And I have another one down here. Let me just scroll down. William Simpson.
Yes,
Hello,
good evening. Can you
Go
hear me?
ahead, please. Yes.
Okay, good evening, IPD Tom. I really appreciate the discussion. And just a couple of things I want to say. You know, when I'm leading meetings, what I have to refrain from is that I'm doing all the talking.
yeah.
How do you right? How do you stop from doing all the talking and get others to do the talking? So I have 2 other points. I feel it's important as part of a meeting to have recognition on the agenda, recognizing members of the meeting or members of the community. And thirdly, how do you balance management activities with leadership activities in a meeting, right? So part of the meeting is administrative management, but then you want the other part of the meeting to be leadership and encouraging. So how do you balance that? How do you give recognition? And how do you stop from talking so much?
Well, thank you, William, for 3 questions. Refrain from talking. I guess that's a facilitator skill. And I guess in my practice and in times of doing tons and tons of meetings, I found that I try to use a 1/3, 2/3 rule. And if I can make mine less than 1/3, it's even better. So I like to have other people talking 2/3 of the time, me talking 1/3. However, you'll notice that on our agendas, we try to delegate the talking time to other people. So I may be at the head of the meeting, I may be running it, but I might have somebody else introduce 2 or 3 speakers rather than me do that myself. And so what I've done is I've delegated off some of that management thing to those 3 people. It also allows them to build up their leadership skills, work on their voice, work on their presentation. And it also allows us to look at the succession of the people who are going to follow us. So I try to use that 1/3, 2/3 rules, and I delegate some of that introductory talk to some other people, knowing that, you know, if I'm the presiding official at the meeting, that's still my meeting. I may have to jump in at any time. Recognition, I don't put on the agenda for a reason. I want to put it in at different points in the evening. I want to recognize people for doing certain things. And so I have my notes on what I want to recognize. And when it comes time for me to slip that in, I'll slip that in. And so I try to do that without putting it on the agenda, because then it becomes a thing, well, he's going to do recognition again. You know, it becomes a time to do that. So I try to slip that in, make it try to look natural if I can do it. Well, it is natural, but I mean, make it in the natural flow of the meeting. And then the management leadership stuff is, well, one of the things I learned about leadership a long time ago is that you're always a leader. You can't turn that off. You can't say, don't look at me now. You have to walk your talk all the time. So whatever you're trying to do for leadership, to build your own leadership skills, you have to be doing that all of the time. You can't turn it off, turn it on. You just have to have it with you all the time. In terms of managing the meeting, you know, you have that before stuff, organizing the meeting before stuff. During the meeting, you have people helping you out during the meeting. And after the meeting, you make sure that everything is tidied up. And there's your management stuff for the meeting. Now, I hope that answered your question, or did you want to go in further with that?
He has muted himself again, and I just noticed that we do have a lot of questions that Gary has that he would like to handle. So I think it's fair that we should give him a chance.
Okay, we're moving on, William. Sorry.
Okay, Tom, the first one I have, it says zone chairs, region chairs, and vice district governors are not allowed to talk even on their specific business. District governors putting their priorities on their specific agendas only. How is this problem to be solved?
I don't exactly get the question, Gary. When you make up your agenda, you make that up with your district governor's team. You don't make it up on your own.
I think that may be the problem, is the district governor is doing the agenda by him or herself. So,
yeah. So I talked briefly about the agenda being made up, but you know, as a presiding officer, you still have the responsibility for the meeting. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in contact. Now, if you looked at, you know, what we used to have was district goals, or sorry, we used to have district governor's goals. If you look at the changes to the Constitution now and our sort of our bylaws, now we're talking about district goals. And so they aren't one person's goals. And I know that we have, you know, people think, okay, I'm the district governor, I'm king, but you're not. And taking the king's position will just get you assassinated. So don't do that one. Yeah, you need to share that up. If you also look at the agenda that I put forward, you'll see that the second vice and first vice have some responsibilities in that district meeting. The district governor does not run the whole meeting. They have a little talk to give on their own, and they also have some people to introduce as speakers. And they're also supposed to be in contact with those speakers between meetings to make sure that they have the reports up to date. So I hope that answers that one, Gary. I'm not sure it does. But.
okay. I have another comment / question about introducing people is killing a lot of valuable time in the meeting. How can it be managed? Okay,
so like baseball, we have an on-deck circle. So the person who's first, which is why we have that agenda that shows what this order of the speakers are going to be. And we have the next person up is going to be standing up ready to go, or if you're online, they've got their notes in front of them ready to go next, and we just click them on so that we're not wasting a whole lot of time. And the introduction doesn't have to be long. You know, if I'm the second vice district governor, I'm introducing the region chairman, I might say, this is Region Chairman Joe Blow from Region 45. You're on, Joe. That's the introduction. It's not long. It's not long. It just needs to be concise. Now, if there's something important to say or some recognition to give at that point, that'd be time to have maybe a little longer introduction. It doesn't have to be long.
I've got another question asked, how do you handle side conversations effectively?
Okay, two things. One, if it's too loud and it's getting out of hand, you use the old proximity control. If you're in person meeting, you can walk over and stand beside them and wait until they're finished, and they'll stop. Or if you're online, you just turn them off. You just click off the microphone. Sometimes, though, I've realized, and as I get older, this has become more prevalent for myself, is that I have to verbalize some of the things I'm hearing if I'm hearing it for the first time. And so I allow that to happen, but I try to keep it at a minimum. And so I will facilitate in. I will say, okay, people, we need to get on with the meeting. If you're finished, I'm going to move on. And if you do it politely and you do it firmly, you should be able to get away with that. If it gets to be too much, then you have to do the leadership role and you have to come down a little heavy and just say, well, we can't go on until the side conversation stops. There's a progression as you go through.
The next one I can relate to, it says dignitaries taking a huge amount of time when they're on their courtesy speech. Is it mandatory to give them the floor to speak during the meeting?
No, it's not. In our district, I guess that's where I've been trained. Our district believes it's a courtesy to introduce them. They don't have to say anything. Unless they have a committee report to bring, why would they have to say anything?
And I think the last one, it says you spoke about a motion list. How do you keep track of all the motions with each district governor? And are they kept and handed over to each new governor? I'm not sure I understand that. Maybe you do.
Yeah, so the secretary at the beginning of the year starts off a motion list. And our secretaries always start with the year. So this year, now, January, would be 2021, and the next motion that's made would be motion 1. And then the next motion on the motion list would be 2021, motion number 2. And so that motion log is kept in a binder and is passed from secretary to secretary. Now, where we are in Ontario, legally you have to keep them for 7 years, but after 7 years you can trash them.
Can I add a comment to the motion log as well?
Sure, Nancy.
In our district, we do it by Lions year. It's my job is Constitution and bylaws. It's written right into my job requirements.
Okay.
So I've been doing that for a number of years. After each meeting, I update it, and only with substantive motions. And by that, I mean the ones that are discussing policy or actions we have to take, not that the cabinet reports were received and approved, that sort of thing. So substantive motions only. Once it's been updated, I send it out to the officers and the chairs so that they have a running up-to-date, up-to-date motion log.
Yeah, so they have their own log. We keep it on our club website, and our district website has them. And MDA has it now too, Nancy.
They have had for a number of years, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at all 3 levels where I'm working anyway, we have that motion log. And a couple of clubs have found themselves in trouble being sued for things that happened. But because they had their motion log and they had the motions that were passed at the club level, they know what the motion was or whatever action they were taking. And so they know it was duly passed and progressed,
Yes, that's right. I know a number of clubs in our district keep motion logs as well, exactly for that reason. So, yeah.
I have a comment here about someone that was curious about the order of agenda. Typically in their situation, the district governor remarks are starting. So is there a guideline on what order things come in on your agenda?
No. You can set your own agenda. That's why you take some time, well before the meeting to have your objectives, set your agenda. And I posted our agenda because I thought you needed an example of an agenda, but it doesn't. The order really works for you, whatever that order is. That may change, if you have a new district governor, they may switch it around. You have it at the beginning now, may go at the end. It's at the end now, may go at the beginning. Different governors have different leadership styles. So you go with that flow.
That's all I've got, Nancy.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah. Barb Cronin, your hand is up.
Yeah.
There you
Sorry.
are. Good.
Okay, my team raises my hand for no reason.
Okay, so I'll ignore you for the rest of the evening. I think we had this problem a couple of weeks ago too, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I keep looking at it and it shows that it's down right now, but I mean, for some reason, my hand just goes up for no reason. Yeah.
Okay,
I guess
Barb,
because I love to talk. Okay.
I'm silencing you now. Okay. Dennis Stevenson, do you have the same problem or do you have something to tell us?
Oh, I didn't do anything.
Oh,
No,
No.
I've thanked him and that's it. Have a good
Okay.
evening, Tom.
oh, just
Okay,
your
thanks.
hand is up. Okay, thanks. Oh, this is fun when you have to scroll through all these.
Yeah. Imagine if you had 400 on there.
Yes, well, I don't think I wouldn't manage. Do you have any more, Gary, or is that it?
That's it. I don't have any more questions, and I think all the hands are down now.
Okay.
Okay, I would just direct people to, watch the leaders in your district, watch how they run their meetings, and take notes. If you're going to have to run meetings in the future, take notes on how other people do it, and ask them for the rationale, just like people were doing with me tonight. Ask them, why do you do it that way? And people will have an answer for you why they do it that way, and you can decide whether you want to do it that way or not. So thank you again very much for the time. Thank you, Wendy, Gary, Nancy, for helping out. That was great.
Well, thank you very much. It was great. You were great,
Oh, thank you.
as always. I have to be. I've known you for years and years and years, and I have never seen you do a bad presentation.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you. Anytime.
Okay.
You'll pay for this.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So your next job, people who are registered, is take the quiz. I will reiterate that in order to access the recordings, the handouts, there are a couple of extras maybe on the Alliance website that we're not able to get up here tonight because we have a max of 5. And the quiz, you must be registered as a student. I think I've had a few people with problems after other webinars trying to get in without being registered. So remember to register, and that will give you access to the recording, the handouts, and the quiz. Once you've done the quiz, don't forget to apply for your credits, and you're away, excuse me, away to the races.